everyone, this is Gilbert Gelada. I'm talking to you here from CPLS headquarters, where you can call us at 877-647-7887. This is Tufts on Tax, where all your tax issues and tax questions are answered right here with Mr. T. Scott Tufts. He is the expert and the master when it comes to tax law. Hello, Scott, how are you?
Good to be with you.
Good to be with you too. And today we have a special topic that we're going to tackle, the Inflation Reduction Act of 2022. Why should you care? So why should we care?
So this is hot off the press. Yesterday we understand that the president signed the law into effect. And many times tax laws included, won't take effect until the next year, tax year and whatnot. But they've got some things in this new law that will go into effect immediately in the form of certain tax credits, and we'll talk about that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So what's new and immediate right now?
So by its title, and people may not know this, but tax laws in my world, they give them interesting names because they'll reflect some political objective or whatnot, but they also will have an acronym. So this one's going to get interesting because it's IRA of 2022. Generally, IRAs are a separate kind of tax and retirement concept, so I'm not sure of that. But the key here is, by its title, Inflation Reduction Act, they're trying to use the tax laws and other laws to try and challenge the inflation that our citizens are feeling, let's say, in a time of inflation. So what's interesting here is maybe our audience doesn't quite understand this, but many times the tax laws are not kind of neutral and generic. They are actually picking winners and losers, or picking on encouraging certain behavior or discouraging other behavior or attacking a perceived problem. So that's kind of what we can talk about on Tufts on Tax, is help people understand the laws and understand maybe what the purposes of the law are, because that can help you sometimes when I do what I do to interpret the law, right? Like if you know why a law is enacted, sometimes that can help lawyer types like me figure out what the right answer is in a complex situation. Make sense? Like where there's gray area, and you have to decide, well, why is this law the way it is?
There's so many gray areas when it comes to tax.
Well, that's right, right? Well, and everybody feels that way, and they shut down. So the other goal on this program is to help our audience understand, right? Understand, taxes a little bit, or not be so scared of them. Yes. So along those lines, this Inflation Reduction Act of 2022 is hot off the press, and we can kind of talk about generically what's going on, or generally, because the fine print needs to be studied and looked at.
A lot of fine print, and I'm sure a lot of people have questions about that.
Like for example, Gilbert, if you look at some of its features, one of the things that they're doing is implementing tax credits immediately to encourage folks to install energy efficient windows, heat pumps, or even newer models or appliances.
And the solar panels.
Right,
as well.
And then the solar panels. So you kind of start thinking, okay, I get it. You get a feel for that. But then when you look at electric vehicles and encouraging that, you start getting into how much is my vehicle, right? An electric vehicle, like a Tesla maybe, might be 60,000 or something.
The hot item, right?
Right.
The hot car.
So you may not get a $60,000 write-off on your taxes because you buy a Tesla, or something, right? So you have to look at the fine print, right? You see what I'm saying? There might be a cap on the credit. And the other thing about tax credits many people don't realize is you have to ask, is it a refundable tax credit or not? Do you know what I mean by that?
That's a good question, yeah.
So what we would mean by refundable would be that regardless of your income, if, for example, your credit is more than your taxable income, you can get that back in the form of a refund. Whereas many credits operate differently. They can zero out your income, but they can't give you a refund. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Wow.
So So, but see, in any law, we're hearing that there might be in the example of you would be able to buy or take a credit for the battery components, like if they're encouraging you to provide or sustain your own charging station for your vehicle, and you might be able to take credit for the battery. There might be fine print in this bill, as I understand it, that says that it needs to be a battery manufactured in the U.S.
That's the fine print right there.
Correct.
So, what cautions or what do you? I don't know
I
how
think
to say this.
so the IRS is pretty good about getting announcements out. I think what we would encourage our audience to do is don't take things at face value. Before you get to the end of the year as part of your tax planning, take a look at it, get your accountant. You know, a lot of the accountants will put out nice little brochures on it, and you can get kind of reading on it. IRS will put out literature. You know, you go to irs.gov, and they'll put out, information about it. It'll take them a while to, do it. But what folks need to do is prior to the year end, as they're planning, there may be effective purchases they can make. And again, this is another part of it. We have charitable deduction, right? In the tax law, we have, there could be a debate in policy about, well, I'm donating because I get a tax write-off, or no, I'm donating because I care about a charity, right? Someone might say, I don't care about the deduction, I'm giving to a charity, correct?
Correct, yeah.
But then they go to their accountant, the accountant says, well, give me all your papers, did you give to any charity? And they just so happen to get a deduction. Others might be motivated like, I wouldn't give a deduction, but unless I get a write-off. See what I'm saying? So that's just one example of how we might encourage that. Another one might be home mortgage interest, right? In the old days, where you have a write-off that you can take for your mortgage interest. There might be a motivation to get folks to buy houses instead of renting, right? Because you can get this, theoretically. But it might be that, no, I just need a house, or I want a house, and just so happen to get a tax write-off.
That's how you look at it, how you think about it.
Yeah, so I think I kind of mentioned that just because so often the taxes are criticized for being so complex. And I think the fundamental first in line question is, do we agree that we want a set of tax laws to reward certain behaviors, incentivize certain behaviors with all of the complexity that goes with it, or do we want a neutral, very straight up postcard size tax, return, right? So we already know there's so many forms, and what we do on Tufts on Tax is talk about forms, and then we talk about how those forms might lead to litigation, and a lot of folks don't know that. So
yes, definitely. Anything else we're gonna?
Well, I think the new law, I guess, to mention that, there are other features of this law that are not tax. So it's not called the Inflation Reduction Act taxes only. So there are other aspects of this Inflation Reduction Act that go beyond taxes. Some of the things that we understand are happening is there's some concern about the out-of-pocket drug costs that go through Medicare and whatnot, and what those, capping those as far as subsidies as well, in your lower premium subsidies. Remember, under the Affordable Care Act, you can get the relief of health insurance premiums. Now, there's a tax component to it that if it's too much from what you end up making during the year, they can recoup it. But the subsidy, as they call it, they're going to continue that was going to expire. So they've gone ahead and they're going to expand. They're going to continue that for a while. And so we'll want to look at this law for other things as well, not just tax.
So you mentioned only these things, or there
no,
are
there'll
more
be some other
to the
provisions.
list?
I was just giving some examples.
These are examples, yeah.
We'll want to scrutinize the law and be open to what else is in there.
How would we know? How would we?
So you look in the news and you look for
that.
the act, and I'm a big proponent of just don't take the headlines, dig a little, take the time and research it yourself. I think the other thing we want to get the word out on Tufts on Tax is everybody's moving around so fast and quick, and they might get a little news blip on something always important to research to the extent
Definitely.
you can, or have a trusted advisor who can explain it to you and look after your own self-interest with giving you tax advice. So be careful out there. Don't rely on just a news flash. Maybe get into it yourself and make sure you're satisfied as a consumer that your tax dollars, your own precious tax dollars, are properly provided for. Yeah, utilized.
There are a lot of companies that see these laws or these new laws coming out from the government, and they utilize that to their advantage. And a lot of cons out there.
Yeah.
Like you said, you have to research. You have to make sure, because they say, "Oh, you can take
yeah,
tax credit on this one, like the
yeah,
solar
so
panels."
That's right. That's right. So that's 100%. You know, we talk about that. If you go to your if you go to someone that maybe is not a quote professional, you know, and there are folks who do tax returns that might not have that professional background. You're going to want to have your guard up, especially if something is too good to be true.
Correct.
If something comes at you and you just say nah, or that can't be true, that's a good sign in the tax law that you need to at least make sure. I mean, there are some things that are pretty, you know, incentives and different things, but make sure if you catch yourself going, that just doesn't feel right.
Does it make sense? Or
and with credits would be, let's say every year you normally pay X amount of taxes. All of a sudden, because of these changes, it wipes it all away. You might want to ask a question to make sure that that's the way it's going down or whatnot.
Definitely. Is this all we need to know about this, or we can dig deeper?
No, I think we can dig deeper in subsequent episodes. Like we might come back around in a subsequent episode and get into things that come out maybe in further scrutiny that we want our audience to know. For right now, it was just to get the word out that yesterday this Inflation Reduction Act was passed, and that the primary emphasis in the tax law that's changing are these tax credits that are going to be out there. So
I guess we have to monitor the effect after a while and see what happens and what else comes up.
Because they always can tweak laws. Sometimes they pass things, and then the fine print is what you got to look for.
Okay, awesome. And next week you have a Tufts on Tax kind of in a way webinar.
Yeah, so that's going to be exciting. We're going to be talking about what tax forms can get you sued. And so for our audience there, we're going to be doing a webinar interactive with panel members, and we're going to help educate on what those forms are, which is a big push for folks because they don't know that. They oftentimes don't realize that tax forms are not just your 1040. They're in a complex society. We, as a civilized society, have multiple tax forms that do all kinds of things. And if they learn that there are some forms that can get you sued, it might be important to know that.
Awesome. Looking forward to it. Well, thank you very much. Folks, you can call us at 877-647-7887. Again, that number is 877-647-7887. You can reach us at cplspa.com, and you can visit Mr. T. Scott Tufts' bio, and you can email him if you have any questions. Again, call us or visit the website. Thank you and have a wonderful day.